All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the September 28th, 2020 meeting for the Board of Selectmen. We'll start off the meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have two major items on the agenda tonight. The 7 o'clock portion will be capital items for the fall town meeting. That'll be followed by discussions of amendment to Article 1 thereafter. The first department that's up in the evening is the school department. And just for clarity and for the record, while the State Ethics Board has indicated that I am free to participate in these discussions, I will pass the baton to our Vice Chair, Ms. McNulty, to lead the discussion.
All right, Mr. Morano, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Oh, I think I lost you. I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yep.
You have the floor.
Oh, well, wonderful. So we have several items for capital request. The largest one so far that we're requesting is the replacement of our gym floor. The gym floor has had a lot of issues over the years. It's in pretty bad shape right now, where there's a pretty decent sized bubble on one side of the court. So we're asking for that to be replaced. In addition, adding air conditioning to the area. We've done an extensive amount of work in checking, what's the cause of the bubbles, and, is there an issue with water underneath the substructure? Roger did a extensive study with engineers over in the springtime and through the summer. And what they concluded was that the water that we've witnessed around the building is not a major concern, but the way that the floor was built is, and the amount of humidity that collects in that gymnasium is a big part of the issue. So again, replacing the gym floor, putting in a new water barrier on the concrete, and then adding air conditioning. I think that came to Roger, if I'm correct, $540,000.
Roger, you're muted.
You're muted, Roger. $548,000.
Yeah.
The next thing we had on our list was extending the entrapment areas. We're finishing up the high school right now. We'd like to do the memorial school. That is $160,000. And again, the entrapment area provides a buzzing system at the entrance, so parents or individuals could buzz into that first set of doors. There'd be a window that they can do their business with the secretaries, and then they could leave. Or if they needed to enter into the building, get buzzed in the second set. So it provides that extra layer of security at the front doors. Third is a transformer in the high school auditorium. That has been, we've pretty much kept it together with duct tape and chewing gum. But this past couple of weeks, it's failed. So the light in there turns on and off on its own. It's not reliable. That, I believe, is $178,000 to replace the transformer, but also to build up that system to be LED ready. So we can change the lights in the auditorium on the stage to LEDs. That's an important project for us because we rent that facility out often. So not only do we use it extensively for our band and chorus and performances, but we also rent out the auditorium consistently, which brings in some revenue in regards to our revolving account. So if we weren't able to provide stable lighting, we wouldn't be able to rent out the facility or use it ourselves. We also have some paving work that Roger has indicated on there for BMS, the back side of the building and the front, some repaving, and then doing our second year of desk replacement at BHS for $30,000. I believe that's all 5 items.
Our protocol at 19. talk about each one individually or what's from a?
Yeah.
So just take one at a time. Okay, so relative to the gymnasium floor, are there any questions? Board?
I've lived it for 5 years, so.
It's been on the,
I'm aware of it.
yeah, no, this has been on for a while. Don, any questions from you?
Yeah, what will be the new useful life if we replace the gymnasium floor? I know there's normal maintenance that has to be done every year, but what's the expectation? Is this a permanent fix or is this a 10 or 15-year fix? Can you speak to that?
Roger?
Yes, this should be a 40 to 60-year fix.
So that is replacing the entire surface, not just underneath, but the entire top surface as well, and putting air conditioning in the gymnasium. I know it's vented for it today, but it just doesn't have the air conditioning. So that should cover it, and that should eliminate the moisture, which is probably causing the wood to warp. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's done. It's removing the entire floor, everything that's from the top layer all the way to the bottom, and then putting a new barrier on the concrete, and then building up the floor with a brand new system.
So that I'll direct this to Mr. Connor, if I may, because he's the athletic director. Mr. Connor, will the floor itself be redesigned? And I know that you and I've had conversations about this, but the ability to have a different setup for volleyball and basketball, primarily volleyball, the way it's set up now, it doesn't really allow to have a full JV and varsity court. And if you switch things around, we might be able to accommodate that.
Right now, we have 2 courts, and we can add a third court to create a third court on that floor, either on the side of the bleachers, or we can change the orientation, but certainly we can move it to the 3 courts would be available.
So with the 540,000, is that built into a redesign of the layout of the sports that would participate on that floor?
It's a redesign. It includes the painting of the floor and any coring that's needed for volleyball. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I have. All I can say is, from being a parent and watching sports over many years, that floor is in rough shape. And coaching youth basketball on that court for a number of years, it definitely needs repair. It's just not a good surface to participate on. It's patchwork at best these days. So I'm not sure where the funding is going to come from, but I'm definitely in favor of replacing that floor.
Here, do you want to address the funding as we go?
In this particular case, Don, the funding would be borrowing,
Okay.
and we would need to determine the term of that borrowing.
Okay. All right.
Right, so,
So-
sorry.
Hey, I just have one more question. Are we taking each item individually, or are we just asked as a group? I didn't hear Cindy.
We're taking each item individually.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I was an aye, too, I just didn't know. Somebody?
There you go.
I am, you are. 764. All right, item. I'm terribly sorry. Mr. Okay, item number 2, BMS entrapment. Are there any questions for Mr. Morano?
This is the continuation of what was done at the high school, moving on to the next school according to the plan.
All right, hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion. So moved. Second?
Second, just declare it for free cash.
Correct.
Plan just for free cash.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Item number 3, auditorium lighting transformer.
On that particular project, we've met, and we're looking at some funding alternatives. We're looking at possibly using some of the net metering credits that we have, possibly utilizing some assistance we were discussing with Bob Moran, who's our representative from National Grid today. We had a virtual meeting with him, and there are some other options. So we don't think that this is one that we want to put on this town meeting. We want to see if we can get that funded through other means, other sources to get it done without having to use borrowing or free cash.
Can I just ask a question though? Mr. Morano just said that it totally went good today. So does that change things or?
Well, I'd say that it's their
still-
third priority. So I
Okay.
assume, Pete, if that's your third priority, it's still functioning well enough to make it through this school year?
It's enough to go through the school year because we're not renting the facility because of COVID, and we're not using the space for, you know, gatherings. So yes, it can get through this year because we're not using it as a teaching environment, you know, or for presentations or for performances.
I'd say worst cases, if we're not able to get net metering credits or other resources, we'll look at this in May.
So what would the motion be that we're saying, that we wait until May for this particular item?
Sure, defer it till May to see if alternate funding sources are available.
Just for clarity though, we need to line up financing because a project like this would have to happen in the summer of 2021, not 22, if it's not working and they want to rent it. So what would we have to do in advance to make sure we're ready to pull the trigger rather quickly?
Well, I think what
after
would
May?
have to happen is Roger would need to go ahead, spec the thing out, put it out to bid, have hard numbers in place so that you're in a position to award that thing when the school year ends, because that's the soonest you would do it anyway, when the school year ends. So you've got plenty of time to, they're not ready to do anything with it until they bid the thing out anyway. So it puts us in a position, which we do with a lot of projects. I think typically that's what you try to do, is have it ready to go so that the day school ends, you're able to award and move forward with it. Is that right?
Correct.
The other thing that we also want to keep in mind is that now that we are a green community, we always have to remember that any kind of project of this scope, we want to make sure that we're maximizing our green energy incentives. And that's something that we also want to take a look at. You know, that Mr. Morano had indicated that we want to make sure that it's LED ready. We want to see if there are any other opportunities. So when we go out to bid, you know, we'd be looking for that kind of information to make sure that we're
Does that still apply to air conditioning for the gymnasium? I would imagine it would. There must be air handlers and things that are energy efficient. So Roger, I'm assuming that's all being spec'd into your 540 number?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, thank you. Are there any incentives back to us by choosing an energy efficient compressor and air handler?
Through National Grid, there is not, but I haven't investigated what the gas company may be able to give us.
Okay, great. That would be great to know if we could find that out.
Excellent. All right, so I'll entertain a motion that we revisit this in the spring.
Either
Or
defer
Just
till
move.
May and search for or review the alternate funding sources to include net metering.
so moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Desk replacement, year 2 of 5, Peter.
Correct.
You say Peter. Does anybody have any questions? Sorry, it's my first gig running a meeting. Obviously,
We were
any
looking at-
questions?
Yeah, we were looking at seeing if we could defer the desks since they're not, for the most part, in use right now, and see if we can't put that off until at least May to see what our free cash looks like at that point in time.
We could certainly defer that because again, we're at half capacity at the high school for now anyways. So it's not a concern for us.
There's no lead time issues to make sure that they're there for next September?
We ordered them over the summer and they came pretty quickly. I'm not too concerned.
All right, any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to defer this item until May.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, and lastly, paving of the bus drop-off rear parking lot, which is at the middle school, correct? From what I understand. Any questions?
And that's another one that we were looking to defer, at least until May, given the number of capital projects we have and the amount of free cash that we have. That was their number 5 priority. So we tried to hit the first 3 and table those 2.
Any questions?
I will make a motion to defer until the May town meeting.
Second,
This question is this a space issue that for the winter, or are we all set right now?
We're all set right now.
So doing it in the summer of 21 is fine?
Yes.
all right.
Second?
Give me a second. Who's the first? John. John.
Don.
Kelly, second. All those in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? None. All right. Thank you, Ms. Morano and school committee members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll pass the baton back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Next up is the library. Bernadette.
Good evening.
Hello. On my sheet, you have 8 items listed. One
We're
by-
only talking about the HVAC tonight for this
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Um, Cindy and I met with Mary and Dennis earlier today, but if you don't mind a brief overview for anyone listening.
No, sure. So the library HVAC system is original to the building. It's 31 years old. Over the past few years, we have been experiencing issues with it. Over this summer, the air conditioning unit had repeated trouble, and its replacement before it fails has become a priority. The heating system also needs to be updated, but that does not appear to be as immediate as a priority as the air conditioner. By obtaining funds at the November town meeting, we will be able to schedule the installation of a new system before next year's cooling season. At Roger Oakley's suggestion, we contacted a company called Northern Energy Services out of Northborough. They have replaced numerous units at the school facilities. They have presented us with a proposal to replace the air conditioning chiller only with a Carrier brand chiller that meets current code. Choosing this option would not require us to pay for design services. We did look at getting design and then going out for quotes, and the design estimates that we got, some of them were as high as $30,000 just for a design quote. If we don't do the design, we can proceed with the project on a timeline that works well for our priorities. The cost of the proposal is $99,498 with an estimated annual energy savings of $2,538. And we will be requesting additional quotes on the project. This was the one that we were able to get immediately. And then the boiler for the heating system could be done as a separate project at some point in the future.
Questions from the board?
So just point of clarification, Bernadette, you said 99,498, but we see 948. Is it
Oh, it might, I
typo?
might have made a
Typo?
I might have made a typo on my written comments. If you,
Not that it's a big deal because
Yeah.
you put it out to bid anyway, but I was
Yeah.
just, okay. No, I
it's 498 on mine, so yeah, I have 498 on the proposal too, so.
okay.
I had the typo.
Bernadette has spent a lot of time and energy on this project. Roger's been a big help. We're using an energy company that is on the national grid. What's it called? An expediter?
Project
Project
Expediters,
Expediter.
under chapter 25A, there is an exemption for utility projects that don't require all of the steps that are necessary in a traditional procurement process. And so using these project expediters facilitated via National Grid, we're able to pursue these projects if they are under $100,000.
Yeah, the companies are approved by National Grid, and school departments had good luck with units at the Stallbrook School. I think, Roger, is where you use it, correct?
Stallbrook and DePietro, we installed 10 units last year from Northern Energy. Very good.
It was good getting the credits and the returns that we're entitled to as far as energy savings.
Okay, That covered all the questions. I'll entertain a motion to advance the HVAC upgrade for the library.
So moved.
First, Don, you'll be second on that. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Bernadette and your team, I would like to commend you on the detail and actually the forward thinking of your items that stretch out to fiscal 25. So nice job.
Great, thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night, Bernadette.
Good night.
Dennis, you said someone else was coming in.
Yeah,
at 11.
IT is.
She is on there, huh?
Hey, Karen.
Hello.
So if you can just briefly go over your MIS needs.
MIS in the book, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just want to preface it by saying that the 53,000 that I am proposing to the CIC, I'm actually also applying for a grant for this, for the same thing. So if I get the grant money, I won't need the funds for this. So what I'm looking for is 2 years ago, I applied for the same grant that I'm actually applying for now. We received $72,000 to implement a new online permitting system. And with that, we started with the building department. So they could do online permitting. Residents could go online, apply for a permit. Contractors could jump online, get all the information, get the permits that they need. We're able to collect fees through the system. And that's actually really been a great thing starting in January, February. And then when COVID started, we had limited hours. The system was up and running where we were still taking money in, people were getting their permits, et cetera, et cetera. So the plan for this system was to, well, I guess my wish list is for every year to get another department on the system. The idea being everybody's drawing from the same pool of information. So we have one big database that each department can pull from instead of assessors having their information here and then having to run across the hall to talk to the building department, et cetera, et cetera. There's also a mobile aspect to it where people can go out in the field, they can take pictures, they can submit permits, violations, that sort of thing. And so the next module that I was looking to get was one other addition to the building permit system. It's the complaints module. Where they can go and let me see, here's this one. The department can record complaints and violations, receive fines online, issue tickets, that sort of thing through Board of Health and Building. And the bigger item is the fire prevention module. We wanted to get the fire department online. One for open burning permits, people can apply for them online. Pay for them online, get their certificates for online burning, and also for fire administration for them to go out, do their inspections mobily. Sorry about that. Sorry, I got a little distracted with that. Yeah, online requests. Again, having the fire department be able to go out and do their job, get the inspections done, go to businesses. Businesses can request schedules, appointments for them to come out, do the inspections and that sort of thing. So that's what the 53,000 is about.
Karen, do you know when you'll hear back on the grant award?
I know that we did hear back. The deadline to apply is October 15th, but I know that last year we did find out the end of October. So it should be before town meeting that I will receive this information. It could be by the end of October, hopefully, beginning of maybe first week of November.
A motion to advance this item to town meeting.
So moved.
First and second, Ms. Grant, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 4-0. Very good. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Next up, police department.
I bet Chief hopes his request goes smooth as the last few. We always have fun when it comes to vehicles, so for as long as I've been around.
Don, the three of us sat through the CIC meeting before this, so we heard this presentation.
Oh,
So a
okay.
lot of this is going to be for you.
Oh, thanks a lot. Well, I should just, you know, go with what you guys think, so.
All right. Basically, what we got tonight is a couple new cars, a little bit of money to refurbish a couple cars, and basically some money for some upgrades on the radio system. The last one is kind of a combined effort with the fire department to kind of improve both departments through my dispatch. I'm going to let Lieutenant Russell explain which cars we're going to get rid of and what we're going to do with the money to refurbish the other cars.
Don, I'm sure you have the paperwork. Basically what we're doing is I'm taking 2 cars out of the fleet and replacing 2 cars that have low mileage per year. And that gives me 2 new cars for the fleet to patrol the town. The first one is going to be replacing 410, which is the sergeant's vehicle. And that's going to become the new K9 vehicle. And with that remake, it's only going to cost us $6,784, just primarily the kennel and the hot stick system in case the car overheats. While the dogs are in it, it turns on the AC or vice versa during the winter and stuff like that.
Okay.
There's, I think, minor graphics. It's transferring some of the equipment that's primarily Lenny has in his vehicle into the sergeant's vehicle, and then a couple minor transfers of other stuff.
So, Lieutenant Russell, these new vehicles that you're looking for, this is part of your normal rotation, correct? This isn't in addition to your rotation.
No, this is replacing 403, which is a 2011 Crown Vic. It's our last Crown Vic. And also upgrading 416, which is starting to process some money. It's a 2011 Ford Explorer. That used to be the sergeant's car and was made into the auxiliary car several years back. So we're looking to do the same thing, but with that one, I'm taking 406 out of the fleet and giving that to the auxiliary. And basically, it's just $1,000, just over $1,000. It's primarily some transfer of equipment, some graphics, and a new fire extinguisher, mounted fire extinguisher, stuff like that. So that one's $1,105 to make that one. And then that would give us 2 brand new cars for the fleet patrol. The sergeant's car right now is, this past year, was the highest mileage vehicle right now. Not highest mileage vehicle, but the highest mileage driven this year.
Right, I understood what you meant.
3 sergeants drive it. Their mileage this year was from last year was 18,314. By giving that car to the K9 officer, who only averages between 3,000 and 7,000 miles a year, that'll last him into his retirement. So we wanted to do this again at a later date. He on average, like I said, averages between 3,000 and 7,000 miles a year. This year, because of the COVID and no school, he was at 8,244. So he had a high mileage year, but that's only because there was no school. Now that the school's in session, he's back in the schools, and I expect the mileage to get back down to 3,000 to 7,000 per year.
Okay.
Any other questions about the cars?
No, I'm good.
The combined is $127,035 for the 2 new cars and 2 remakes.
Just maybe Mary or someone just clarify why it's a 2-year project for the repeater instead of 1 year.
Well, that was me, and I know that there's other costs around town that we can get away with it in a 2-year project.
Okay.
Don, we're talking about the repeaters for the police and fire now.
Okay, yeah, I see that number, the 51 number.
Yeah, I broke it down into 2 years. Speaking to my radio vendor, the fire department repeaters and receivers were replaced in the summer of 2000, and the police were in the summer of 2003. They need to be
Okay.
upgraded because they're not supported by Motorola after December of 2020. The 2-year plan is possible because what we're gonna do is, by replacing Forge Hill and Chestnut first, we will have those as parts in case South Main or the station equipment fails. We'll have those parts to use. Because it's not gonna be supported by Motorola after December.
Okay.
Then next year, we would do the South Main radio room and the police station. Police station's more software and stuff like that. But we're able to do it in 2 years because of the fact that we'll have that equipment from Forge Hill and Chestnut to use that if we need them, if we need the equipment.
Okay.
So the first year is 51,770. Second year is 40,300.
Okay, gotcha.
Any other questions?
Clarification, so between police and fire, the whole project is just under 200,000.
Yes, this is combined. So 51,000 is going to pay for the fire repeater at Forge Hill and the police repeater, and then
Okay.
Chestnut has receivers, not repeaters.
Thank you.
And I think it's broken down on the pages to get there.
Dennis, do we need to redo it as one in the police, or do we do it as 2 categories for the warrant?
What's your preference?
I'd rather just leave it as the police.
Okay,
They've been handling a lot of these technology projects. And we just make
thanks. Motion to approve the 4 line items for the police department.
So moved.
First by Ms. Grant, thank you. Second by Ms. McNulty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None, 4-0. Look at someone get a brain cramp. Yeah. Hey, what the hell? All right, thank you, John. That was
Thank
easy
you.
this year.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.
Should we skip fire and go to DPW? Or what? Chief, I only said that because you showed up first tonight for CIC.
Willing to wait my turn.
Do you want to wait on the ambulance for another year? Or?
Sir.
All right, next up.
All right, so we'll start with the ambulance bond. This year, it's Rescue 2's rotation to be replaced and go back as the spare. Rescue 3 will be traded in. I don't know if you saw that email today, Dawn. I sent that I got for the $7,000.
Yep.
To take off the price of the new ambulance. So the total ambulance will be $296,287. With the added equipment, we're looking at a price of $362,881. And that's what we'll be asking for to replace the ambulance. Don, did you have any questions?
No, so this is just to this is new to replace, or because I'm having a hard time hearing,
It's
Chief.
new. It's a new vehicle,
Right.
and it's replacing Rescue 2, which will go in the back as a spare.
Okay.
And the one that's being retired is a 2008.
Right.
Yep, I heard that one will be retired. Okay. And then that includes the 362,881 you just said. That includes all of the equipment necessary to stock the ambulance. I'm not talking about, Band-Aids and all that stuff. I'm just talking about your equipment.
Yeah, it includes the upgrades to the LifePak 15 monitors,
Okay.
and it includes the replacement of a LifePak 12 to a LifePak 15.
So what's a life pack for just so I understand, what's a life pack?
It's if you're coding, we shop you with it.
Oh,
And
so, okay. It's a
monitor
defibrillator?
Yeah,
Okay.
monitor defibrillator. So if you're having a
Okay.
heart attack, we can
Yep.
take a look at your heart.
Let's hope I never see it. All right. Okay, that's good. No, big
That'd be-
proponent of having the latest equipment to save our people's lives. So nothing, no more questions for me.
We're gonna do it all in total, chief, so if you want to go on to the next item.
So the next item would be the Station 2 headquarters generator. It's the original generator that was built at the station 30 years ago. Sometimes it does not work. It's obsolete. There's no parts to find anymore to get it working correctly. I put out 2 bids. Charpentier, who does all the generators in town, especially police fire, came in with the best bid at $31,225. And added to that would be the cost of wiring it into the station, which would be $12,677. And this generator, the generator we have now only handles a quarter of the building when working correctly. So this generator that they're going to put in, Don, is going to handle the whole station, which is important because we'll handle our computers. It'll keep our Wi-Fi and Bluetooth up and running, which is important for our drug boxes that are inside the ambulances that run off of Bluetooth in order for us to open those. So, and this will handle all the lights and the doors as well. So it's a much needed upgrade, and I appreciate you guys recommending.
Okay.
And then the hose and nozzle up there, we're all set there.
Yep. Next item is the hose and nozzles, $24,704. The hoses that we have now, it's a perishable item. We do have hose testing every year. So when we do hose testing, we lose some of the older hose that gets cycled through. And then with the new buildings, the larger buildings we're building in town, we need some additional lines on that for the length. So we're going to add some additional lines to the vehicles. And then new nozzles, the technology, and a change to replace some of the older nozzles that we have in service now.
So I have a question for you, and this is actually directed to Mr. Kupfer. I think moving forward, just my opinion, if we're going to have to spend money to upgrade our hoses in nozzles because of the technology's changed to support these new buildings that are going up in town, my recommendation is this is something that these builders should be paying for.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We shouldn't have to pay for this. You know, listen, we're going to have to do it. I understand, but moving forward, any new buildings, if it's going to require different fitting, it's just like buying an electric car. You know, you got to plug it into your house. You got to buy that fitting. So, or the device. So I think moving forward, that's just something we need to tell all of our builders. They have to buy it for us, or I'll allocate some funding so that if we have to recycle hoses or fittings, that it's part of the what they pay us annually. I don't know if my fellow board members feel the same as me, but
fair point.
Yep. Great.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? To approve in the entirety for the fire department a total of $437,810. With a motion.
Second.
Ms. McNulty and Ms. Grant.
Point of order.
Yep.
Sorry, the price of the ambulance went down by $7,000.
$7,430,810. Yep.
Second.
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
And just to reiterate, the alerting system that was approved last year, but never made it to town meeting, along with the upgrades that Lieutenant Russell had mentioned, we will be revisiting that project in May. Because our alerting system within the station really needs to be upgraded. It's obsolete and it needs to be replaced. So we'll be bringing that ahead.
Just, Chief, according to my records, I didn't find that it was actually approved by either any of the committees last year. So I think we should go back and take a peek at that.
Capital, but not.
Okay, I'm not entirely sure it was moved, but how about if we take a peek at that? and
That's
see if we
fine.
can- Okay. Thanks. Just wanna
We
make sure I-
we could just redo, just go through the whole thing. all
Yeah,
over
I think
again.
it'll probably be best to start.
I
from
mean, I'd
scratch.
have to go from scratch anyway to see
Yeah.
if the price change.
Our discussion earlier today, we were speaking about how the library has items through fiscal 25 as to whether you have enough data or if we need police and fire to roll their numbers forward. I know, Jimmy, you've got your information on how your cars should be turning over for the next 3 or 4 years. But
But we should also be looking at other, significant capital infrastructure and equipment issues. Fire department has, the SCBA units and other types of equipment that have a life cycle. And so what we're trying to do is see if we can't gather more information to build out a more realistic 3 to 5 year plan that includes some of these bigger items that we need to think about.
I believe in my 5-year plan, I do have infrastructure.
that would be like the replacement of your other ambulance, is probably 3 years away.
I think
Because if
that's
you're on a
in my-
6-year
I believe
cycle
that's-
on the
I
rolling,
believe that's in my 5-year.
okay. So maybe we can just make sure that,
And is that, all right, we'll follow up with you on that one.
and Jimmy, you have the same thing, right? The vest and everything else included. One of the comments we made was that in our meeting earlier today is that the school department seems to be asking for things and has not projected out formally. They know what they want, but to formally have it out, 5, 7 years, and the parking lots need to be redone. And we've got one of the stations needs to be done on your side that's under the DPW and those items. Just say that for the- Perfect. Okay, well, we took our vote, right?
Yeah.
Yes, well
Good.
said. Thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
There he is. He came
There
off
he is.
hidden and behind the black.
You're on mute.
All right, John, you want to,
Yeah, I'm done. Done swearing at technology now, so I can take the mute off. I've got 3 devices, and all of them are telling me Microsoft won't let me get in. So now, for some reason, I'm in. Okay, where am I?
you're going to cover the DPW side, and I think maybe, is Don going to handle the parks? Or
No,
you
we'll
gonna-
we'll talk.
Okay.
Okay, I think you got a sort of a small spreadsheet that's DPW capital.
Yep.
And it lists the top 3 items, which would be from non-water and sewer. A plow and salt truck, pretty obvious what that is. It was actually approved by the Capital Improvements Committee last September and not funded. Similarly is a small dump truck. It's a hook truck with a second hot box to put us in a position where we'll almost never need to use cold patch anymore. The hot box we have is in a fairly old ambulance that we rejuvenated. The hot box is pretty much very few moving parts. But if the truck doesn't run, we don't want to be out there, especially in the winter, putting cold patch down. And the availability of hot top at Riley as well as the hot box has been a game changer as far as getting potholes filled. And the last one in the upper section is a sidewalk. It's a multi-hog. It's a sidewalk machine. So it's designed to sweep sidewalks and plow sidewalks and snow blow sidewalks. So it pretty much does, as well as the brush cutter attachment for sidewalks. So that's what that guy is. Probably want to attack those.
Yep. Don, you want to go first? You want me to?
I'm good. I think they're self-explanatory.
So Don, I was
Yeah,
driving through another town and they had one of the hot boxes, but it was on a trailer. I think Medway had it as a trailer. So why do we buy it as part of a truck when we couldn't?
Well, this is a
dump truck and then trailer.
This is a slide in. So in other words, it's something that that's why I call it a hook truck, because you hook up the hot box if you want to use the hot box that day, and you can just put a dump body on it if you want to use the dump body. It's actually replacing one of the small size dump trucks, but it also has with it and included in the price the hot box that's sort of made to hook onto it. So it's not just a sole purpose. The other hot box is a sole function machine. It was an ambulance, doesn't have anything that dumps or any value. This is actually a small dump truck that you can turn into the hot box machine. So
We're not duplicating what we had. We're doing a different route this time around.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we're realizing how valuable it is. And even the guys like to use it better than the cold patch. It's easier to work with. It does a much nicer job.
What's the hot box? All those, you know, truck and I have no idea what it was.
Asking
Hot asphalt.
It's the yellow.
Sorry.
We
Potholes.
bought a truck.
I'm familiar with potholes.
We used to put that cold patch in the first time it rained, it would just go away.
All right.
Afraid of that.
Thank you.
So since these are DPW and not enterprise funds, we wanted to.
Yeah,
pull
we
those
definitely, the backhoe was the next item. We're looking at retained earnings on that, but Don, you can speak to the backhoe.
Yeah, the backhoe is, it's actually a smaller backhoe than the one we have now. The backhoe we have now, which really was the preference of our previous foreman to have a big machine. When we got that big machine, we did not have a mini excavator. We did not have the capabilities that we have today. So it comes down to now that we can't run that big machine down the street with the backhoe section locked in place like it's supposed to be, because on several streets it's too high and we'd be pulling down telephone wires. So the guys run down the street with it sort of bouncing in the breeze, which is not a good thing from a safety position. In addition, and I can't believe this the entire time we've had it, we can't get it inside of our garage without putting it down, and nobody has hit a garage door in the entire time we've had, which is almost miraculous to me. But so we're trading that in, not getting a lot for it. It's not really a new piece of equipment, and getting like we have to have a DPW has to have a backhoe. So it's a smaller size backhoe, easy, won't block the entire street. And on Mary's advice, as well as question from, I mean, we use it, especially now. The backhoe is because we use the mini and the vac truck on most water main situations or excavation situations that we need to repair something. Its primary use is going to the landfill a couple of times a week often and banging down the metals dumpster. So it's to say taking it out of trash is not that big of a stretch.
I guess I was surprised that trade-in's only $9,000.
I didn't catch all that. I didn't catch all of that.
Seems to me, I was surprised that it was only a $9,000 trade-in for the vehicle, for a piece of equipment we have.
Yeah, last year it was like 15. It's gone through another year. It's going to, if we keep it, it would need hydraulic improvements again. So it's, and the problem is you're getting it from the people who do the repairs to it often, so they have a full idea what it is.
Okay. Other questions?
The only other item is the $9,500 design fee for the replaced fire station apron. It's something we've been talking about for at least 10 years to take that fire station apron up and put a new one down, and the design fee on it estimated at $9,500. So that at least will give us an opportunity to look exactly what needs to get done and how much it's going to cost. Anything else on that, Don, as far as?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Before we get, we haven't gone to water capital yet, right? No,
No, we're just gonna do those separate.
No, I mean, anything else on the design fee?
Oh.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and the idea with that is not, that's more, that's the fire apron, right, Dennis? I haven't got that sheet in front of me.
Fire apron for the design.
Yep.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the 5 items totaling $600.
Are we gonna talk about the Green Acres?
Green. Oh, the 750,000. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. There's some borrowing costs here that we wanted to talk about as well. The underground storage tank, as far as the borrowing on that, are we talking about that, authorizing that now, Mary, or are we're talking about that down the road?
So that, excuse me, that depends on timing. We know that we're up against a hard deadline with the underground storage tank removal of August of 2022 to have it completely removed.
Yep.
So if we think that we're going to be able to do the design and the removal in 1 year and fund it next year, then I think we're safe to delay that 1 more year.
Is that reasonable, Don, to talk about appropriating the funds for the underground storage tank next November and the fall town meeting next year?
Yeah, just as long as we understand that's drop dead. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. It's just playing it close to the line. I mean, granted, I don't know what the state's if the state would come down hard on us or not. But yeah, if we put the funding up and we're a little late as far as the actual hitting the 5-year window, but at least we're obviously doing it, I can't imagine that they'd beat us up too much.
Pretty sure, we used to have gas tanks, we just have the diesel now, but we still have the tank in the ground, so ultimately we've got to take it out. And that $750,000, or what is it, $445,000 number takes into account the possibility that there could be some contamination. Hopefully there isn't, and the number comes down.
Well, that's one of the things that, and again, I haven't got that one in front of me. I'm lucky I have any technology in front of me, but I did put in for engineering for that, and that's I would highly recommend if we could come up with the money for that in advance to find out, because then we can bring the engineers in. They can do some testing, and we can get a sense of, is this going to be a $200,000 easy thing to just pull out of the ground and throw away, or is there going to be some kind of remedial action necessary, that's hazardous material and so forth. And there's no way to know until we do the testing, and it's not testing that we would need to do. We need help for that for sure.
What would that cost?
That's the $60,000 design fee that you're estimating.
Right. I'm sure that sounds right. Yeah.
Is there any way we can improve the 60,000 so that we know what we're dealing with for next year?
That's something we could look at, free cash. I have to look to Mary.
So I would say yes, and I think, once free cash has not been certified yet, so I would recommend for these types of things that we if you are inclined to move forward with these projects, approve them pending another review of our funding sources. And once we have our retained earnings and free cash certified, then we take a look at it.
Just on the 60,000.
On the 60,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's important because as Dawn said, the 445 is sort of hopefully our worst case scenario, but the engineering might be able to bring that cost down.
Okay. So we'll do this as two motions. The first motion will be to include items 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12, totaling $646,300. Good motion.
So moved, sorry. Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And entertain a second motion for $60,000 for the engineering for the underground storage tank, subject to financing determination.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
First and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Do we want to talk about the Green Acres and the brick grant and what that's all about, John?
Yeah, Mary and I talked about it as well. This is a grant application that we'll put in. Estimated project cost is $3 million. The grant application is due December this year. Talking to the grant people, we would not know we even got it until November of next year. It would almost definitely be something we do by borrowing, and then 75% grant refunded. So it's a $750,000 commitment on our part if it goes forward, but we have to appropriate the $3 million and then get reimbursed. As we submit the application, which will be luckily after town meeting, but not after my letter of interest, but to be able to say in your application, we've already appropriated the funds, it's not like that means you're gonna win it, but it's a few extra points in a very, very competitive grant program. So a few extra points may kick us, over the point that we actually get the grant.
So we'll be authorizing the borrowing, but obviously we'll take no action on the borrowing. It's just the authorization will be there. Obviously, if we get the grant, then we move forward with it. So,
correct, and even that will be late. That will be in the middle of fiscal 2022. The numbers they gave me, he was sort of optimistic that they would be allocating, awarding the grants sometime in November of next year. So it's not something. It's money we sit there, and if we don't get the grant, it just goes away.
Well, we would then bring it back to town meeting to rescind it.
Right.
Yeah.
We
would not borrow. We would not take any action on that borrowing authorization. It's merely a placeholder and commitment for this competitive grant process.
I forget we talked earlier. Was this stormwater or general budget? Not general budget, but
we certainly, there's not enough in stormwater to pay for that kind of debt now, but there may be 3-4 years
Right.
down the road.
Yeah.
But for now, all we're doing is authorizing the debt. In 2-3 years down the road, if we wanted to say we want to pay part of that debt out of stormwater and the funds were there, then we certainly could. But right now, it's just the authorization for.
Excellent. Motion to approve the future borrowing of up to $3 million.
Up to 3 million. Yeah.
So moved.
First and seconded by Dawn. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None for all. What else we got? Are we looking for Jenks Dam?
No,
No,
That's
not,
it.
not now. Nope.
Okay,
We're going down to the water at this point. We did all the DPW that we're looking for action on.
at some point we have to look townwide about more money for roads, but that's not now.
Yeah, well, we're gonna, that's with the amend Article 1, we talked a little, we use that.
No, I mean like another $5 million over a 5-year span, like you did last summer.
I think Don would like to do it now, but I don't know that right now.
Right.
But
I would.
I know you would, Don. You'd have it spent tomorrow. There's enough needs. Do you want to get into the water, Don, starting with
Yep.
Scott Hill Boulevard water main?
Yeah, the bottom two, Scott, I think, let me see how this lays out. Yeah, what I think you'll see there is what is all 7 that are on the list are me putting stuff on the list that can fit underneath what I expect to have for available funds when Mary gets the certified number. The first item is Scott Hill Boulevard water main roads completion. Our plan for the last probably 5, 6, maybe even longer years is once you put a water main in to go back and fix the road. The bids came in higher on this section of water main. No apparent reason, maybe I underestimated it. But in order to get the road fixed, we need the remaining funds in that account, which are about $40,000 plus this $125,000. So it's actually for road repair on a street that had the water main done. So that's the first item. The second is, this one may actually go away, but I'm going to leave it here for now because we don't know for sure. We're getting close to the end of this contract. Excuse me, this is the engineering. I get the wrong one, wrong standpipe. The South Main Street standpipe is going to need to be stripped and painted inside and out. That's the one pretty much in the center of town. It used to have a rocket on it. It's due. I think it was 97 that we did it last. The estimates have been going up every time I ask the engineer. I don't want to ask him again. But we need construction, we need biddable plans. So it's a relatively small number. They've been doing the inspections on it every single year. So they're pretty much not that complicated, but we need to have bid documents in hand and hopefully we'll be able to do that with the 15. The next item is Arthur Street, similar. It was part of the project with Scott Hill Boulevard, much shorter street, and we had actually quite a bit more money left over. So it's a $7,000 to get that road completed the way we want. The other thing to know about Scott Hill Boulevard and Arthur Street, half of Scott Hill Boulevard is going to be completely reclaimed and reconstructed, which it needed. And half of it's going to be leveled and overlaid. Arthur Street's going to be completely reconstructed. And that makes the cost a little more, but it's the only way to fix the street without causing additional problems for the residents and abutters. The Oak Woods Apartments, trying to make connection to negotiate with them. They have a very good water pipe through their property, and it ends at about 150 feet from the water pipe that used to go to well number 12 down Cliff Road. So by connecting the Oak Woods pipe to the Cliff Road, we eliminate both the Cliff Road dead end and the Oak Woods dead end. This is a chronic area for us we actually have to flush it about once a week in order to keep a chlorine residual up because of the dead end down there. And next one, Poria Street water main upgrades is a 2-inch water pipe. It's actually 7 feet deep. We've repaired it a lot more than we want to. A very complicated repair. It's iron pipe that you go to repair it and the next piece falls apart. So it's long overdue. The Link Street water main, I sent you a sketch of that. we determined last winter, in the timing you don't want to determine it, that the two houses on Link Street and actually at least one on Key Street are serviced by the Payne Street water main with a water service line that was run across private property from Payne Street properties with no easement, no rights, no real location for it. So when it sprung a leak and people lost all water pressure, we were in tough shape. So we'll extend the water pipe out down Atlanta Ave and down Link Street and put a hydrant at the end to also enhance fire protection. And then the last item I have is well number 10, preliminary analysis. As Jim absolutely knows, I'm sure you all know, we have a ton of proposed development coming forward. The developments that are in the queue from us with our current fee system for water will generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.5 million as they get connected. And that part of that fee is intended for us to try to enhance our water supply capabilities to try to avoid bans and just have the water available for firefighting. Discussions with our engineers and briefly with DEP is, although it's difficult to get a well permitted in the Charles River Basin, we're not going to look for any additional withdrawal volume. We just need a backup. And other towns have had that approved recently. So I'm fairly confident that 5 or 6 years ago, it was a 10-year process being beat up by the Charles River Watershed Association and other associations that don't want to see any additional water withdrawn. They're sort of getting to understand that, you know, we've got the aquifer. Now, well 10, I think if you look at the sketch, it's out in the woods near the High Street Fields. We have no idea, no records that I've ever seen. It was there before I started work almost 30 years ago. It may not even be a viable well. So the $100,000 will get us to the point of actually going to the next step. But that whole thing may stop after $50,000. We go in there, we find that it does not generate enough water to be cost effective, or the water quality is terrible. Maybe it's very high in PFAS or something. We have no idea, but we own the land. And it seems as good a time as any to jump on this so we don't get bitten in the future when we have all of these houses, all these people in their houses and much less water supply.
Funding is all coming from the water enterprise.
Water enterprise.
Okay. So we only have to approve the 537,000. Is that correct? Okay. Motion to spend 537,000 out of the water enterprise account.
Second.
First and second on either side of me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. We don't have to do anything with the million, correct? For the well at this point, I know it's just other years, but. Okay.
No, because we may not ever need it.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
Now,
Hopefully we do.
Yeah.
That one.
Okay, John, you want to cover sewer?
All right, sewer is fairly simple, or will be. We need to replace the generator. We've funded it to the tune of $120,000. This is a generator in one of our oldest sewer stations, the one right on North Main Street. You can't miss it, the building. The generator at its sister station that were built to the exact same contract in, I want to say 89 or 90, has recently been replaced and failed on us in sort of an emergency status. This one is showing signs that it wants to do the same thing. So we want to get it replaced. Just the cost that the engineers have given us is that we need an extra $100,000. We have only about 50, I think Mary's still nailing that down. But we also have Rentham Road. We appropriated funds there for a grinder system, and it turns out we got away pretty cheap because there were grinder pumps available or other technology that has, to a degree, lessened any need to put in a specific grinder unit there. So that leaves us $36,000. So effectively, every red cent that we have in sewer or retained earnings or projects that aren't complete needs to go into that account. We'll bid it, and hopefully we'll come in with enough money to do the job.
Questions?
No.
All right. Motion to approve $86,526 for the North Main Street generator out of sewer enterprise.
So moved.
First, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. 4-0. Team for none. Okay, Parks,
Yes,
That's the
two
last of it, right?
items, the first being the gator, and you know more about what they use the gator for. They use it at the Blackstone Street field complex, essentially to move barrels, move equipment around that complex. And I don't know, the one they have is pretty beat up from what I understand.
Yeah, that they, not much works on it at all.
So
Especially the gator, I mean, and everything that they do at that location is everything up and down Blackstone Street, police, fire, library, senior center, all the schools.
So it's to move the equipment from place like gator's like almost like a mini.
It's like a mini dump truck, except it's like a golf.
Yeah.
Heavy duty golf carts.
Right.
Yep.
Any questions on that? The other items, a Kubota motor, will be paying for that out of retained earnings from trash. And that is used in part, one of the things it's used for is cutting the grass down at the cap landfill. So that's why we can justify using retained earnings from that source, but it'll be used other places as well.
Motion to approve $32,263 for 2 parks equipment items.
Second?
First and second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. You want to get into building maintenance? You're doing that?
Yeah.
Carpet
yes.
town hall,
Yeah.
30,000.
Yeah, carpet. This is the final, well, I shouldn't say final, hopefully we'll cover the final phase, but if you look at the carpeting in here, you see it was replaced a year or two ago. Many of the offices had carpeting replaced. The issue is it's bunching up under desks, and it does become a tripping hazard. The goal was to try and do it in 2 phases, and that's what we're looking to do. The carpeting, basically all the offices that weren't done the last time, meeting room downstairs, okay, you'll see it's bunching up in the finance office, particularly under desks and chairs where we've got the chair motion that lit up. So.
Hey, Dennis?
Yeah.
Do the desks have those plastic pieces for rolling? Because I've just learned over the years that the bunching, it's not the poor carpet, the bunching happens because they're rolling back and forth. And if they had one of those plastic mats that actually stuck into the carpet, it wouldn't bunch.
A lot of them have those now because they are so bunched up.
Okay.
Yeah, so they are down. I think most of a lot of them do. But you're right, Don. That I think probably caused some of it. It's amazing that the carpeting in the meeting room downstairs is worse than it is because we have those heavy chairs that are always dragging.
Right.
It's not in terrible shape. So.
So my recommendation, wherever there's a desk and there's someone at that desk, most of the day, and they've got rollers on their desk, on their chairs, that they'd be required to have one of those plastic mats. I'm just thinking for, into the future, it'll probably save us a couple of years.
I'm sorry, Mary.
So I had carried forward last year's carpeting numbers. So right now the summary schedule that you're looking at is showing 60,000.
Should be 30.
Yeah.
Should be 30, right?
I think the documents went in at 28.
They went in at 28, so that's the
but
number.
but it was dated.
Yeah.
So I think 30 would be on the safe side. So you can make that modification.
All right, motion to approve 30,000 to complete the town hall carpeting project. First and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. 4-0.
Great job, Don. Always.
Thanks, Don.
So am I good?
You're good.
Good.
Good night, Don.
Go back to
We
swearing
don't
in
need to
technology.
Article 1, do we?
Thank you.
Is there anything on Article, hold on 1 second, Don. Is there anything on Article, the amended Article 1? Yes, there is, the roads.
Yeah.
Which I think he'll be perfectly fine with.
Yeah.
So I think
Hold on 1 second. We'll do you first, Don.
I just want to make sure on capital there's nothing else. So we've done fire, library, COA doesn't have anything for this year.
We didn't do dominoes.
So that particular Domino's item does not require reapproval, but it's a placeholder that I am just using as the funding mechanism. It is the second year of the 5-year note that we have for the purchase of Domino's, and I need to make sure that we don't lose sight of the funding that's necessary. So that does not require reapproval.
And it doesn't require action in town, so it doesn't require any action in town meeting, because town meeting already authorized the 5 years and the 96,000 a year. Is that right?
Right, but
The money has to be appropriate,
right,
so it does require.
it does require,
Okay.
yeah. So rather than doing a separate article at
Right,
town meeting,
right.
I put it here. We may decide next year to put it in, present it a different way. That's all it is presentation.
I'll put it in the debt budget too.
Yep, we can, make it simpler and
Yeah.
that way we don't have to worry about it. So, okay, I think that's everything on capital. So what I'll do is I'll update this summary schedule based on the conversations and votes from this evening and get that back out to everybody. Okay. So then I think we're just talking.
Don, you have two items under amend Article 1, the tree warden and DPW road work for $350,000.
I can't explain that one. I don't know why I need that money. It's, so the 350, I can't. As I think I said when Mary sent it to me, we're only a couple of zeros off. We're not far. But that's pretty obvious. Pretty obvious to where we need some work on our roads with the November appropriation. Everything will happen in the spring. So we'll be bringing forward to the road committee what we plan on tackling. So reinstitute the activities of the road committee that hasn't met in 2 years because we haven't had money to spend. And the tree warden is the estimated additional funds necessary to bid the remaining dead trees that the tree warden has identified relating to going, it was a 3-phase program. We've done very well with bid prices. He'll tell you he was not real happy with the last contractor. Low bid is not always the best, but did get the trees cut. So with one more project, we should be able to get all of the trees that he had on his list, the droughts and the gypsy moths took out off of his list. So that's where that's coming from.
We need to, that's just informational. We don't need to vote individually. We just
No.
We can
collectively.
vote on the whole article.
All right, Don, you're all set.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Don. Bye, Don.
Tom Martinez, you have this updated list. The totals $1,069,200.
I have a
61.
million.
I have an updated 1,061,200.
Michael, you're looking at the wrong one.
Sorry, $1,061,200.
Yeah, he does have the same.
Yeah,
one.
I do.
Okay. Mary, you're going to explain all this for me to present at town meeting, right?
Right, so
And I know, no, not that I don't know what they are. The narrative that we're going to
yeah,
use.
a number, do you want to jump in? Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So a number of these were, when we were putting our budget together back in June, and of course we were in the middle of, the beginning stages of a pandemic, and we needed to adjust our revenue projections and cut our expenses. There were some departments that we cut, and with the hope that we would make it through. Knowing that and I've taken a look at some of these numbers, they in some cases were cut a little too much, and so what I'm proposing or asking for is to restore some of the funding in some of those line items, like the Medicare line, the street lighting, some of our electricity accounts. We were hoping to get by with those cuts, but it was a little too tight. There are a couple of line items in here where we are asking for some additional funding for some other items, like at the bottom, transfer to compensated absences for $100,000. We have a number of impending, if you will, retirements or retirements that we've known about, thankfully, that we've had advanced notice in order to prepare for those kinds of things. And we also have some contractual buybacks for time that's already on the books. We've taken a look at the balance in that account, and we are proposing that we need to increase the balance of the compensated absences trust fund. So that's included in amend Article 1. But the biggest item in this particular article has to do with the debt budget and the easements. And so what happened is, we already have authorization by town meeting to proceed with the town center construction project. And this is a at this point, about $3.3 million project, or $3.5 million, for which we have received a $1.8 million MassWorks grant, and the other $1.7 million necessary was approved at town meeting. It was approved under borrowing authorization, and in taking a look at where we stand with our FY21 budget, and also thinking about whether we really want to borrow for things like temporary easements and have to incur debt service over a number of years for a temporary easement for a construction project. It began to make a little bit more sense for us to go ahead and utilize the operating budget to proceed with the cost of the easements for that construction project. And the remainder of the construction project would go out to borrow. We would use borrowing in the springtime when Dawn is ready for that piece of the project to move forward. So although it does look like a pretty significant item, it makes more sense for us to not incur those borrowing costs for these types of things. And then by having town meeting approval, it's much faster, easier process for us to work with those property owners in order to process those easements and get done what he needs for the construction project, instead of waiting to go out to market for a debt issuance. That being said, the reason that a number of these things are being proposed under Amend Article 1 is because the landscape has changed somewhat. When the state came out a few weeks ago and made a firm commitment to all of the communities in the Commonwealth that they were going to fund state aid for Chapter 70 and unrestricted aid back to FY20 levels. If you remember, when we put our budget together, we made significant reductions in those revenue sources and therefore corresponding cuts in our budget, with the valid assumption at that time that our revenues were going to be significantly diminished. At this point, we know that that has since changed, and we have the capacity in our FY21 budget to handle these amendments that we're talking about. And in addition to that, the new growth numbers that we've talked about sort of on the periphery over the last couple of weeks, those are shaping up to reveal that we have some pretty strong new growth coming forward for FY21 that would allow us to make these amendments.
So the optics, $1 million of tax levy, additional tax levy, where was it in the spring? We were estimating an 8% reduction in local aid. And a lot of people have thought that 8% wasn't enough. We should be looking at 12 or 14%. But as Mary said, the state's come down, they're looking at level funding it. We were estimating about $800,000 in new growth. And new growth is a tough thing to predict. You're looking at the value and the taxation for properties that have been added in the tax rolls as of, and we're going to town meeting in May, or this year it was in June, but we're putting our budget together in March and April. So we really don't have the best numbers. New growth looks like it's coming in about $1.5 million. So about $600,000, $700,000 stronger than we thought it was going to, which gives us the ability to fund these things from taxation rather than borrow and stay within Prop 2.5, absent obviously the override that we had back in the spring.
So and to your point, when we had made those original reductions to the budget, we had reduced our revenue projections and our corresponding expenditure proposal by over 1.7 million. And so now what we're talking about doing is restoring 1 million.
So when it's explained to the general public, is it not so much that we've changed the tax base, it's just we're recognizing that the state gave us more money than we anticipated, and this is the allocation of those funds.
Mm-hmm.
And they level funded us instead of cut us, and our new growth came in a little stronger than we thought it was. And 850,000 of that $1 million is roads and easements associated with this project out front. So obviously we won't be funding the easements out front next year. Hopefully we'll be able to continue funding the $350,000 a year in road money, get on a steady.
So if there's an uninformed naysayer in the audience who says, don't spend the money, it simply goes to free cash at the end of the year as part of our certification.
It would not be raised.
How is it not raised if it's already in fiscal 21?
Well, it's not in fiscal 21 until we vote at that town meeting, and this amend Article 1 is that vote. So if we vote a smaller number, then it's not raised in the expenditure.
When we set our tax rate in November, it's based on the spending that we've done. So if we haven't spent that money at town meeting in November, we'll be basing our tax rate based on the spending without.
For
that
next year. 22.
No, it's.
No, we're still in the 21 budget. We're setting, in November, we set the tax rate for the 21
But
budget.
if we don't spend this, we have to go back and amend what we're billing people for Q3 and 4.
Yeah, so that happens automatically.
Yeah.
Yep, so when we set our tax rate in
So
November,
someone might say, well, just don't do that. Oh, my taxes for Q3 and Q4.
Exactly.
yeah, but I will tell you that if it's, if there is a motion that amends the 500,000 out of here for the easement, then what I would be forced to do is to borrow for that, because we have to move forward with that regardless.
And there are costs associated with that borrowing. It makes it a lot more expensive than $500,000.
So when someone brings it up, they're gonna be behind us and just say, there's that
Say that.
answer. And there's that answer.
Mary, please come back up. Mary?
Now you just have to have like a little earpiece in and just have
So
Mary
this is the
talk
one we're
into
gonna have
it.
Van Spencer read?
Yes, because I'm not here.
He's not here, he gets it.
Very good. Nice. By the way, if we don't say it enough, exceptional job in preparing us.
Yeah.
All right, so we need a vote on
Amend Article 1.
amend Article 1,
As stated on the document.
$1,061,200.
Second?
First and seconded. No other further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0
Aye.
again. Take a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Night, night.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Great job. Thank you.